night was heavy with silence, broken only by the distant cries of crickets hiding in the tall grass. Emily's car rolled slowly down the winding road that cut through the forest, her headlights catching the occasional sign of life, a fluttering moth, a pair of glowing animal eyes, or the leaning silhouette of an abandoned farmhouse. She had never been here before. The map had called this place a shortcut, but as the forest grew thicker and the sky darker, she began to doubt her decision. Still, the road led her forward, and soon, as though pulled by some invisible thread, she found herself approaching a village that wasn't marked on any map. The village appeared almost like a mirage, nestled in a shallow valley between the hills. Lanterns flickered in the windows of crooked wooden houses, and smoke rose lazily from chimneys, curling into the night sky. The place looked frozen in time, as though modernity had forgotten it. Emily slowed her car and stopped at the entrance, where a weather-worn sign stood crooked in the soil. The paint had long faded, leaving behind faint scratches that once must have spelled its name. She could barely make out the letters, but they whispered something ancient, something older than English. Curiosity overpowered caution. She parked her car by the side of the road and stepped out, her boots crunching against the gravel. The air felt heavier here, damp with mist, and the silence was so complete it pressed against her ears. Then, as if on cue, she heard it, a faint melody drifting through the air, soft and haunting, like a lullaby sung by someone who had forgotten the words. Emily followed the sound, her steps leading her deeper into the heart of the village. The houses were strange. Their walls leaned inward, their roofs sagged, and their wooden doors bore carvings of symbols she did not recognize. Strange spirals, figures with too many arms, faces with hollow eyes. She touched one of the carvings, and the wood felt warm under her fingers, almost pulsing like skin. A chill raced up her spine, and she pulled her hand back quickly. "Traveler," a voice said behind her. Emily spun around. A woman stood in the doorway of a nearby house, holding a lantern that lit her sharp cheekbones and hollow eyes. She was dressed in old-fashioned clothes, a long dark dress with frayed lace at the sleeves and a scarf wrapped tightly around her head. Her lips curved into a smile that did not reach her eyes. "You shouldn't be here at this hour," the woman said softly. "Not unless you belong." Emily hesitated. I got lost. My GPS led me here. I just need a place to rest before I head out again." The woman tilted her head, her eyes glinting in the lantern light. "Rest. Yes, you may rest, but leave before the bells." "The bells?" Emily asked. The woman didn't answer. She only gestured for Emily to follow. Against her better judgment, Emily did. The woman led her to a small, inn-like building at the center of the village. Inside, the walls were lined with more carvings, and the air smelled of herbs and smoke. The innkeeper, an older man with a gray beard and cloudy eyes, gave her a room without asking questions, only muttering under his breath, "Another one who wanders in." The room was small but clean. A single candle flickered on the wooden table, and the bed was covered in rough wool blankets. Emily sat down, exhausted but restless. Something about the village unsettled her. The way the people looked at her. The way the air seemed thick with secrets. She thought about leaving immediately, but when she glanced out the window, the road was swallowed in fog so thick it looked like a wall. That night, she couldn't sleep. At midnight, the bells began to toll. They weren't church bells. Their sound was deeper, more ancient, vibrating through the very bones of the earth. With each toll, the air grew colder, and shadows stretched unnaturally across the walls. Emily pressed herself against the bed, heart hammering. From outside, she heard the sound of footsteps, many footsteps, moving in unison. She peeked through the window and froze. The villagers were gathering in the square, each carrying a lantern. Their faces were expressionless, their eyes unfocused. At the center of the square stood a tall wooden post wrapped in rope, and at its base, a figure was kneeling. A young man bound, his mouth gagged. The villagers chanted in low, guttural tones that didn't sound like any language Emily knew. Then the bells tolled again, and the shadows around them thickened until they seemed alive. Emily's breath caught in her throat as she saw it, a figure emerging from the darkness. Taller than any man, with limbs that bent wrong, its face a blur of shifting features, as though it had no true form. The villagers bowed as it approached the kneeling man. And then, without hesitation, the shadows swallowed him whole. His screams echoed, muffled, then silenced. Emily stumbled back from the window, her hands shaking. What had she just witnessed? She wanted to run, to drive far away, but the fog still covered the road. She was trapped. The next morning, the village looked normal again. People went about their routines, tending gardens, carrying water, fixing roofs. No one spoke of what had happened. When Emily asked the innkeeper about the bells, he only shook his head and muttered, "It is the way of the village. Do not question it." But Emily couldn't let it go. She needed answers. She spent the day exploring, talking to anyone who would speak to her. Most ignored her, their eyes sliding away as if they didn't see her at all. But one girl, no older than 16, whispered to her as she passed, "You have to leave before the third night. That's when they choose." Emily's stomach turned. Choose what? Choose who? That night, the bells tolled again. Another gathering. Another sacrifice. This time, Emily didn't just watch. She followed the villagers from a distance, hiding behind houses, her heart pounding. The figure appeared again, feeding on the chosen. Emily realized with growing horror that the village wasn't surviving despite the creature, it was surviving because of it. They were offering their own to keep it satisfied. And soon, they would offer her. By the third night, she knew she was the chosen outsider. The villagers avoided her gaze, whispering to one another. The innkeeper refused to serve her food. The fog around the road had grown so thick it seemed alive, writhing when she approached it, pushing her back. Desperate, Emily turned to the girl who had warned her. She found her near the well, at the edge of the village. "Please," Emily begged. "You have to help me. How do I get out of here?" The girl's eyes darted nervously. There is only one way. The creature takes what it is given. But if it is given nothing, it takes everyone. That is why the sacrifices happen. If you want to escape, you must break the cycle. Destroy the bells. They call it. Without them, it cannot cross. That night, when the villagers gathered, Emily made her choice. As the bells began to toll, she crept to the tower where they hung, her hands trembling as she climbed. The wood was rotten, the air thick with the stench of something ancient. The bells loomed above her, massive and blackened with age. She grabbed a rusted iron rod and swung with all her strength. The bell cracked. Again and again, she struck until the metal split with a deafening shriek. The villagers screamed. The shadows writhed violently, the creature's form twisting as it tried to emerge. But without the bells, its body faltered, its limbs shattering like glass. Emily kept swinging until the bell shattered completely, collapsing into fragments. The sound that followed was like 1,000 voices crying out in agony before fading into silence. The fog lifted. The night cleared. The village fell into ruin around her, the houses crumbling as though they had been illusions all along. The villagers vanished, their bodies fading into dust carried away by the wind. Only the girl remained, standing silently by the well. She looked at Emily with sad eyes. "You freed us," she said softly. "But freedom is not always life." Then she, too, dissolved into nothing. Emily stumbled back to her car, her body weak, her mind spinning. The road ahead was clear now, stretching into the dark horizon. She drove without looking back. The village no longer existed, at least not in the world of the living. But as she drove, the sound of a faint bell echoed in her ears, a reminder that some places never truly let you go.